And this is an amazing. What is it? I hope this is going to be amazing. If you grew up in the '90s, I hope that you will indulge me here. This is Doug, one of my favorite ones. We're talking about the Nickelodeon version, by the way. I don't care for the Disney version because I feel that the Disney version really toned down a lot of the things that we loved about the Nickelodeon version. So this is on September, updated last year, September of last year, and I really love this. And these are Doug theories, some fan theories. So I'm going to start with the first one. Some of these are childhood ruining, and I will admit that some of them I'm just like, nope. So first theory is that the Dinks lost a son around Doug's age. Redditor Siatabiri offers a more innocent but heartbreaking explanation for why Mr. Dink is the way he is, i.e., seemingly desperate to force a friendship with Doug. The theory has two possibilities, but essentially comes down to the same result. But either the Dinks had a son born around the same time as Doug, whom they lost as a baby, or they had a son who died around Doug's age before Doug moved into the neighborhood. Mr. Dink goes a long way to build a relationship with Doug, almost as if he's driven by a pathological need to fill the void of his lost son. It is also noted that Mrs. Dink has a motherly affect, perhaps because she was once a mother. Now, I honestly disagree with this one because of the fact that, well, when people are referred to as Dink, double income, no kids, usually it is a couple that has not had children or has never had children. So I disagree with this one. I just think that the Dinks are just who they are. And a woman can be motherly without having children. There are a lot of child-free teachers, a lot of child-free women that love being around kids and have a motherly, tendency, but just don't want to have kids of their own. The next theory is that Roger was abused as a child. J. Swift X from Retro Junk has a simple armchair psychologist explanation for why Roger Klotz is a bully. He was abused as a child. By and large, just about all aggressive bullies are indeed the victims of aggressive bullying themselves, which is always via the hands of a family member or close acquaintance. As a means of masking the inferiority of not having a father figure, Roger attempts to form a synthetic family consisting of all the schoolhouse ruffians, an act which makes him his own paternal figure in a way. So it's not simply an explanation for why Roger bullies people, but a deeper dive into his psychology which tries to explain his need to surround himself with a pseudo-family, something that is often indicative of abandonment issues. I do agree with this one, and I also do think that due to his home life, he kind of, does his thing, because he kind of tries to put forth a synthetic world that he is the center of. Also, I want to say that there is an episode of the where Doug and Patty solve a mystery based on a la one of their favorite mystery books, and Roger sabotaged a wheelbarrow because his father was not going to come to town, to Bluffington, to do this wheelbarrow race with him. And Mr. Dink and Roger did the wheelbarrow race. I thought that was so cool, so wholesome. Okay, let's see. Okay, where we are. Okay. The events of the show are a manifestation of Doug's imagined narrative. Similar in practice to the theory that Doug is crazy. One crazy theory argues that the events in Doug are a part of a boy's narrative which he writes in his journal. Essentially, the theory goes that Doug writes his own story. This explains why everyone is different colored, as real ethnic differences are mundane to a child. His alter ego as a superhero, Quailman, is further evidence that a child is writing the story. It is much nicer theory than those claiming Doug is either insane or addicted to drugs. I honestly think that we all write our own story, so I agree with this one. The next one is people of color are the elite ruling class in the show, and Doug and Patty are the two main flesh-colored people in the show. The Redditor Pricel notes that they are presented as having lower working class lifestyle. Conversely, the purplish Dink has grandiose political aspirations and spends lavishly. Well, double income, no kids. That's why they can spend lavishly. while Skeeter, who is either blue or green, depending on your eyes or TV, is a super genius. The heart of the theory is that white people are depicted as mundane or below average, while colored people are notably superior. I disagree with this one. Patty is a closeted lesbian. Now, this kind of reminds me of Pepper Ann, but this is also a wisely anonymous theory. She really likes sports, seriously spends half of the episode in a basketball. That was one when she was about to miss a basketball game or something. Sometimes she speaks in a deep voice to be funny, but we deduce that it might be her actual voice that she hides with a southern accent. She never showed any interest in Doug other than friendship, and let's be honest, Doug was a total babe. She never seemed to do well in girly situations, aka cooking. Okay, I just want to say that this is more gender non-conforming or a tomboy like Scout in To Kill a Mockingbird or Pepper Ann, and Moose, who is Margaret Rose, actually, Pearson. She just doesn't conform to stereotypes, so this one is a hearty disagreement from me. JD from Scrubs is a grown-up Doug. This one is interesting. Cartoon Justice wants to bridge the gap between your childhood and adulthood, bringing two of your favorite shows together, Doug and Scrubs. The Redditor argues that the protagonist of Scrubs, JD, is Doug as an adult, citing multiple similarities to support the argument. JD and Doug share extreme daydreaming. None of their families or friends intercede to stop this. Both have extreme fear of failure and keep a diary. They share a love of blondes who are over-competitive. They both continually sabotage their love life. Both have a best friend of color. So Douglas Yancey, traumatized by his parents' divorce, gives up on his dreams of music and decides to go to medical school. His daydreaming and awkwardness follow him into adulthood. After falling out with Skeeter, he meets his new best friend in med school. I agree with, I disagree with this, but I kind of agree in part. Concur in part, dissent in part. What I think is Doug may have, I kind of want to take this last part here about gives up his dreams of music and decides on medical school, and the falling out with Skeeter part and parents' divorce. I think that he found his love of medicine, and he moves from Bluffington to go to med school, and that's where he met Turk. We're on. Roger has the hots for Doug. A post from Read Too Deep explores Roger's Klotz's personality to try and uncover why he's such a bully. In this case, the conclusion is that Roger is gay and trying to repress his feelings for Doug, which is why he lashes out. Also, the theory explains why his repeated trips to the vice principal's office are intentional. The vice principal's name is Mr. Bone, and the principal is Mr. Savage. They aren't subtle messages coming from these writers. Roger craves the presence of these two in his life, and they are only two who understand who he truly is. Getting in trouble is a terrific beard for Roger's frequent visit to these cleverly named administrators. Roger's tough guy facade is just a transparent cover to run from himself. I disagree. I disagree with that one. Doug is insane. There are a number of theories that claim Doug is insane, and subsequently, there are a number of mental health disorders for which he is diagnosed. Some believe he's schizophrenic, others more generally call him crazy. Regardless, the theories about Doug is that Doug is not sane. The support for him being schizophrenic cites the time he nearly rode his bike into traffic while having one of his fantasies. His daydreams are so vivid and extreme that he can't separate reality from fantasy, and it nearly kills him on more than one occasion. That's not a daydream at that point. That's a medical diagnosis. I disagree. Roger Klotz has rickets. This one, okay. The Doug Funny is Crazy Tumblr takes a break from the ongoing argument that Doug is insane to point out Roger Klotz's disease, rickets. Though others have made the argument, a collection of images are presented on Tumblr depicting Roger with bowed legs, a symptom of rickets. Rickets is a vitamin D deficiency that results in softening of bones and a possible explanation for why Roger is bow-legged. I disagree. I think it's more animation and because he's actually taller than Doug, and then I just think that I don't know, maybe he just has crazy legs. Doug was molested by Mr. Dink. This one is a hell to the no, no. Okay. Movie pilot breaks down creepypasta fan theory by an unnamed author that views Doug through a dark lens. In the first episode of Doug, audiences are introduced to Mr. Dink, Doug's eccentric neighbor who, upon meeting Doug, immediately tries to get him to come into his house to watch a movie, which is the Welcome to Bluffington movie, by the way. Later in the episode, Dink is seen watching Doug from the bushes with a camera. Apparently to catch a nematode is the reason. Mr. Dink also lures Doug into his high-tech shed on numerous occasions. And sometime, this one episode, they actually had a soapbox derby, and they actually went to Mr. Dink's. Most disturbingly, when Doug goes to scout camp, Mr. Dink is the scout leader, and at one point, Doug and Skeeter find Mr. Dink naked in a tree. The result of all this is mental instability on the part of Doug, manifesting as either schizophrenia or drug addiction. Hell no! Mr. Dink is not that. Doug ruined the world by being the first emo kid. I disagree with this one. Doug was the original emo kid. He sat in a corner of the park and wailed on his banjo, singing love songs about Patty Mayonnaise. And he also did Dog on Dog Done Gone. I actually like that one. What do little kids do? Idolize cartoon characters. Emo, and subsequently emo kids, are all Doug's fault. Doug was emo, kept a journal, kept getting his butt kicked by bullies, and wearing a sweater vest. Systems theory continues, but quickly devolves into a rant on how Doug made being a loser completely acceptable, and he hates Quail Man for being a lame hero. Yeah, you can obviously see where I'm at. Doug and his sister are drug addicts. I definitely disagree with this one. I just won't. Judy is protective about her room because it's her room. And then Doug was trying to get her, somebody says that Doug was trying to get her to her stash of LSD, which explains the hallucination. 13, Doug grows up to be Ted Mosby. Don't know who Ted Mosby is, but the visual thing is there, I guess. Or maybe it was one episode where they decided to do Doug. I really don't disagree with this. The show itself is racist. I obviously disagree with that one. There are a whole bunch of different colored people in this show, and she points out that the creators wanted to make the characters of all different colors so the audience could decide for themselves what ethnicities were represented, or just ignore the construct altogether. However, the main character, his family, and love interest of the main character are all clearly Caucasian. While the show portrays itself as colorblind, it's actually clearly stating that white is normal. I disagree with that one. All right, thank you so much for joining me. What is it with your daily dose of Doug? Actually, some of the episodes are on YouTube. You can also go to watchwco.tv and look up Doug is on that platform. And I believe it's also on Paramount Plus or Disney Plus or something. Either way, get your daily dose of Doug. Any way you can. Nickelodeon, not Disney. Disney Plus might have only the Disney version, so I probably wouldn't go there. All right. Have a great one and see you later.